Thoughts are racing, spinning fast. Ideas flow, but never last. Waves of wonder, thoughts untamed. Nothing ever stays the same. Rambling on, no straight lines. Welcome to my busy mind. Questions, answers, here they go. Digging deeper, let's start the show.
Computer. Welcome to Ramblings of a Busy Mind. We have episode 9, I believe. I might be wrong. I'm really bad with that. With Richard Morden. And Richard is a person that I've come to value a lot. He is, how to describe you? You're always the calm and the person who grounds everybody, who holds the space, which is one of your favorites. I know that. You do EFT. You have time sweeps, which we can see behind you. And just tell us a little bit about you.
EFT, I guess, came into my life in a life event, which I posted recently. I just suddenly lost my now late wife in 2013. I had just discovered EFT through Nick and Jessica Ortner. And it was helping a little bit. But so at the event, and I looked at what else can I do, because suddenly I'm single dad, 2 kids. How do I take care of myself? And that was my primary sensing to do. I wasn't so much an intellectual choice, but I knew I didn't want to be sitting in grief and then trying to be a father at the same time. So, and in that culmination of discovery of EFT, my first weekend, I discovered a bunch of events that I had no idea existed in my life, traumatic events. And that was really such a visceral weekend. And I thought, I guess that was my mission at that point, to how can I serve? Because if I had this, and I think I had a normal upbringing, but we had, like all of us, we had a lot of shite in our background that we carried forward into adult life. A lot of early family deaths, a lot of difficulty growing up, things like that. And you suppress yourself, you freeze parts of yourself and frozen that. So I really dug into that well, but in uncovering my own work, so I could be really understand myself and connecting to myself. And that's something I've been disconnected with for, oh my God, almost 50 years of my life, 40 some years of my life, like that, disconnected, not even home in my body. So I think coming home, as you know, something Adele and I mentioned, coming home to your body, feeling safe inside, learning about yourself, learning to calm the critical mind, because we all had, I grew up when you're criticized as a child, you don't realize anything, but you turn on yourself. You become the critic. You become the critical voice, and that's all you hear. And it's not. We don't have the discernment that it's not coming from someone else. We internalize it all. So my external world was fantastic. I had a good working life, good people in my life, but my internal world was really heavy, and a lot of anger. And I was able to focus in a sense of do good work, do good things for people, because no one knew what was going on. And I was able to channel my work into my anger, into going to the gym, taking martial arts, doing physical things, walking, keeping my body healthy. So that allowed me, this transition point in 2013, to really dig into that. I mean, my body was in good shape other than an excess amount of sugar, but again, stress and burnout was coming in there too, because of through a 20-year marriage and 15 years of having an alcoholic partner, raising 2 kids, financial things. So the stress was still building. And the EFT really started to uncover that. But I think when I took it again in 2014, and when now mentor Nancy Forrester, and spent 8 months in her Harness Your Power program, and she's now a retired psychotherapist, really dug into our personal journey. And I am adamant about that. Ever since I was able to go on that path, I have been very determined in my path to continue my personal journey. And to this day,
I'm sorry about that, but I find it's, first of all, EFT is emotional freedom technique, and it helps with tapping certain points on the meridians, just to explain for people who don't know that. And I find you correctly, like you're absolutely correct, and you're building up all those emotions, and you're collecting, and you're collecting, and you're not releasing. I've seen my EFT. I've taken one introductory class on EFT, and I loved it. I had one person in class who went, like, she couldn't even say the word exam because she was so afraid of exams. And then we did EFT, and after I think 3 or 4 rounds, somebody said to her, "And what about the exam?" And she said, "Exams? What?" Like, not, it was so amazing to see that, like, no holdbacks, no emotion towards the word exam, right? And while before it was all panic. And that's where it's so neat to have EFT to deal with whatever you build up in your life and whatever you collected, and take the emotions out of the situations and have you respond instead of react in that moment when you have the same come up. You're doing great work and with the listening circle. And I love that you have that platform. It's every Saturday, remember, if I remember right. Me and calendars, it's the next day. Too much on the calendar. But the listening circle is quite a neat project of yours where people come together and discuss a topic. You always give one word, sentence, whatever you want to discuss, and then we talk about that. I find that's a neat place to create also the community that we're all searching for, and the place where people can find insight. Like I know, remembering back of when I participate, there's always a tidbit, there's always a nugget that I find in there, and there's always a person you can talk it out with, which is so cool. So your whole life, coming from your first marriage and your childhood to a point of being, I don't want to say of service, because of service always seems so you're subservient, which you're not. You're a guide, you're a mentor, you're a helper, you assist others to come out of their quagmire because you've learned through your life what it is like. And that's also something that so many of us have, that we have to go back and do the classes that we need or courses that we need to heal ourselves, that then become our help. Like you went back and did EFT now as a trainer, right?
Practitioner.
Yeah, practitioner. You said before something about death. What happened there?
Well, when I took the first course, 2013, in the fall of 2013, again, my wife had passed in June. I thought I'd be dealing with the grief of the situation, and that grief never showed up. The previous events showed up. Situations with my dad, my brother's suicide, were 2 big events. And I thought, so what else is there? And then taking it, I was trying to work with the other practitioners. They couldn't get together. And I wanted so much to process and learn. So 2014, I found this other event in King City, Ontario, and Nancy Forrester. And I walked into the room, and there was 25 women and me, and so my first introductory to it again took the 3-day course and her training, and was really powerful because she's such a amazing person, like many are. But holding that space for that personal development, it was so formative for me in unpacking my journey and getting into my grounded space and connected space. And then I really, again, taking it to others. But like I said, I'm adamant about self-care, and that's something I teach so strongly to people. I really focus on my self-care. So I'm not in anybody's story. When I talk holding space, I'm not an empathetic. I'm compassionate of the situation, but I'm not. My energy is mine.
Yeah.
And I'm able to facilitate others with me, and again, allowed me to be what I wanted to be, present with my kids. They were teenagers growing into adults, going to school, and it worked out really well. They never missed a beat with their change. We had a great family environment outside us as well, but I did my part, being present emotionally, physically, and available to them, and not getting distracted, and with any other thing. I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker. So I didn't have those distractions. I just was really, again, working with my job, still coming home to be that, and doing my self-care, which is what I wanted to do. And again, it worked. With the relationship continued on, and here I am looking later, as I then met my now wife, Angela, several years later. But my journey was, again, focusing on my self-care, and that's what I want to teach people, because when you have good self-care, and I would say when your cup is full, you have so much more to share with others, and you can share it with discernment, not out of a need or approval. And I think it gives you such a natural inner strength that it becomes just part of you. It's not something you're searching for.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I often find that some of the people who do the work, um, if they are not taking care of themselves, they often go and have the need to help, because that
Yeah,
just covers up what they're not dealing with.
correct.
And they basically distract themselves from the work they have to do with themselves, instead of focusing on themselves, focusing on others, and a lot of ego in there. While if you do the work yourself, then it comes from a heart that you want to help, but you understand it's the other person's place and time and ableness to be what they are and to get to where they need to go. So it's not you pushing them anywhere. At least for me, it's that way. I try to work completely without, not always working, completely without judgment and expectation.
Yeah.
Especially not with family. That's why I don't like to work with family, because with family you're always tied in. There's always emotion tied in that makes it harder to step back and to detach from outcome and to give them the space they need. I can do that perfectly with a stranger because I'm not involved with them, right? Friends and family, I really have to remind myself that it's not my place to do their work. And
If I, yeah, I think that's important because we're not trying to do something for somebody. We are guides walking with them. And if I return back, as you said about the listening circle, it's about holding space, but also what I call talking about some of the big elephants that we deal with every day: avoidance, humiliation, shame, the big emotions that we don't think have impact, but they have that sliding impact, that continuous impact that just wears us down. Wears our nervous system down, and it literally keeps compressing things into our nervous system where it gets tighter and tighter. And I guess the best metaphor is it's like a pop bottle with a cap on, and every so often it shakes. That fizz is always in your nervous system. It's always there. We just don't feel it. But when it starts to come off, boy, it can come off in some really hard ways if we're not prepared for it. And unpacking those traumatic events take time. So it's now said your work and my work is present time work and a very safe place. So we're not digging up the past, we're not trenching it forward, we're uncorking we're allowing what's in present time to process as your system can allow it. And therefore you have awareness of that. And the awareness is so beautiful for most people. They just have this sometimes I wake up more and the colors will be different. They can smell things they haven't been able to smell before. They feel less tension in their body. The body holds. As we know, the body is a keeper. It keeps a score, like Kessel van der Kolk talks about, and it is the holder of all your emotions and energy, and it's also the holder of your relationships. And so I don't think we realize how much of our relationships are in our energetic body. And when we change that energy, those relationships around us will change. And I have a story of that, if I may share.
Absolutely.
One of my colleagues and I were, because when we were on our personal journey, we agreed to work and we got online and what do you want to work on? And I was scratching my head because I really didn't have anything that was that present at the time. And I finally said, I have a boss, a good guy, but he's micromanaging me. Really sharp guy, but just like I'm getting a tizzy around him. So we just said, okay, let's work on that. And it wasn't anything big. We're tapping on. And what came through was my dad's energy. He was a ex-military, so just a very strong, rigid person. Boom, boom, boom. And again, it wasn't hugely visceral. It just was like, okay, that felt good. I felt some difference in my stomach and my chest. And I went to work. I guess I was on Monday. When I went to work, my relationship with my boss was completely different. We had no conversation about it. That part of him that was micromanaging me there was not there. He was now asking questions. He was supportive. So that's my work with a lot of people, because when we change the energy in our body, we have so much ability to change energies, and especially conflicts with people around us. And we don't have to go in and try and dialogue about it. It just shifts. It's up to us to just be aware of it and go, wow, that's different. That's cool.
I hear you.
And
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat when you see that you shifting can shift the person you have challenges with, without them having to do anything.
Correct.
And that's one of the biggest advantages we have in this world, is that we can change and it will shift the whole energetic connection to another person, or the whole the whole situation, which most people they don't see that. If you've never experienced that, it's really powerful when you realize that you have the power, nobody else. Yeah.
Especially someone returning to a family event. And I've worked with people going home to that, and you ask them afterwards, and I prepare them to, like, just be present. Don't try and look for the, the situations, and they'll come back and say, yeah, it was different. It wasn't the sort of antagonistic aspect or the old habitual pattern showed up. And so we have that ability in ourselves to shift those, especially, I mean, relationships are key, work relationships, personal. We don't have to be the victim. We can be the person that can facilitate it, just with working with another practitioner.
Yeah.
And watch the magic change around you and think, wow, that's just so much available for us to have change.
Yeah, and coming back to EFT, it can be so effortless, because it's not that you have to force yourself through whatever. You just tap it out. You just talk it through until the emotions taken out, and you shift. And you can see that mine was usually when I was finally able to say the sentence that I needed to say. Before it wouldn't come out. It would be always scrambled until the whole situation resolved. But it was never stressful. It was never in a way that pained me or created anxiety or whatever. It was just seeing that from that part to that part, the effortlessness, how you can in 5-6 tappings you can shift immensely to a different place. And when you shift, again, your energy shifts, everything else around you shifts, because they are reacting to you and responding to you, right?
Especially, like you said, an emotional situation, or like when I just put my part of my story out there last week, and I was talking through it with somebody. I had spent probably 10 minutes tapping through it so I could say it calmly. So I was having some emotion, but as you said, you want to have something to say, you may have to spend some time just tapping it out and repeating the sentences or whatever you want to say, especially in difficult situations. So it comes out calmly. It doesn't get, it doesn't get choked up or you're feeling all flustered. And that's a very empowering place to be. And then it takes the energy of the other person where there may have been a rebuttal. They don't have that energy to try and, have a rebuttal back. It's like you just, that part's gone.
I use as I have a little bit different training, I have therapeutic touch. So when I know I go into a situation that could end up in conflict or arguments, I put myself in a bubble of love. So I surround myself with love and I push it out as far as I can to reach as many people as possible. What I found is when you do that, people cannot argue with you, because anything that's other than neutral or lower than neutral in emotional state, lower frequency, it cannot deal with the energy of love. They don't know what to do with it. They cannot get their word out. It scrambles them completely. Cluck, 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 my dog goes. and it's so interesting to see how that little effect, like that little impulse that I give to the world, can have such a huge effect on other people, right? And would you, for instance, say when somebody knows they have a stress situation with their boss, and they know they have to talk about work hours or whatever, changes in that, would you talk that out?
That, and give them some frames, how to frame this conversation. And I use another one, something like you and Denise has used it. I just call barriers down, barriers down, barriers down. So you're dropping all your energy barriers down. So again, there is no antagonistic energy there. So you've done some tapping with them so they can, we rehearsed what they want to say. You've actually had them set up a frame of how you want to, approach the boss. Because sometimes we don't realize when we're going there, we're pushing energy. I need to talk to you right now about this situation. Well, they could be busy, so it's being able to ask a question. Can I talk to you in 20 minutes? I have a question. So it takes the pressure off them, takes the pressure and just, there. So it's setting the stage a little bit like that. So there's a few ways to do this, but the barriers down helps too, because it pulls the energy down. They've got no energy to push on you. And there's the lady did a YouTube video about that when she demonstrates it. And so it works quite easy for anybody. So whether it's a bubble of love or energy, but when we pull the energy in and out, all of a sudden they've got nothing. It's like there's no targets for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got more of a dialogue in that. And there's so many ways we can set up conversations, you're right, in conflict, but especially in couples, creating safe spaces for them to have dialogue where there's some tension in the relationship, and how to do that without getting back into the recycle conflict pattern. You know, this happens over and over, and that just becomes more and more of a tighter situation.
Yeah. The topic with conversations and misunderstandings is a big one that I have with my clients. So what I tell them is, if you're constantly getting into an argument, usually what I see energetically, they don't hear each other. One says something, and I see that in my parents. My stepfather's Canadian, my mom is German. And language barrier, and then not listening correctly, and so on. So when they have an argument, I said, no, like these days, if you feel that you want to work on it, then do the following. Just say, from what you've said, I heard or understood, and then repeat back what you heard. Because that tells the other person you're trying to, but you might not be able to get what they're saying. And it gives them a chance to correct what they said for you to make it understandable. I find that's the biggest part in people is not being able to either hear or understand. And that can be also part of that. I have an energetic block due to something that happened in the past that won't allow me to listen to somebody else, right? Same in school. Like it's so interesting. The energy work is so interesting because you can be, for instance, it can be a block because you're sitting on the left side of the room. If you're sitting on the right side, you don't have that because energetically you're in a different space. So you won't have the hold back. Brain gym is one of the biggest things that helps kids to deal with stuff like that. But even for grown-ups, there is tools and tips that we have, like you with time sweeps, to create better relationships or come out of a relationship and be better for it. Learn the curve or learn what comes out of there, and then work from there instead of being stuck in that emotion, being stuck in that memory. And yes, it's not the brain so much that remembers, it's your whole body that remembers, that will then go into pain or whatever, and you're not getting out of it, right? If you had one little tip or trick or exercise that you wanted to share with them, would it be like an EFT tap or whatever? Is there anything that you would like to put out and give our listeners or watchers?
Well, stress points means just body stress alone for tapping. There are some hold points as well. When I'm actually helping doing time sweeps, I just get people to hold the light pressure just underneath the wrist bone. When they can put it down like that, and then that helps you're on one of the meridians, and that helps their system release as I'm talking through the situations.
So how would you describe to people to find it if they're not watching, if they're listening?
If you just go past the joint on the wrist and just down a few inches, just when you feel past the bone, really light pressure, as much as you maybe hold a penny there.
There's actually for me there's actually a dent.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so you can put your arm on the table, put your arm in the lap, and it actually works just sitting here breathing, because it starts to regulate your nervous system. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to think about it or anything. Just we think. But EFT, well, I don't know what to say, and it's like, so it's just do the hold.
It's grounding. It's amazingly grounding right away. Like you take a deeper breath and everything. Cool. Yeah. I didn't know that point. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Because it's very simple to do, and just like that, or sometimes we unconsciously hold our hands on our chest. Mm-hmm. Sometimes then there's the points in there. The other one is this is a little bit more, but holding the head back and some leaning back in your chair, front and across the top of your head, or hand across the front of your head, at the back. And sometimes you can just lean back and again just breathe through your nose. You don't have to think about things like that. Mm-hmm.
That's the ESRs, the emotional stress release points.
Yeah.
which are neurovascular points. We had that last time with Denise Cambiotti. So basically, Bruce Lipton was the one who said in one of his interviews, and I stated that too, you're bringing the blood flow to the forefront or to the back. So if you are in panic mode, you want to have it to the front. If you're in too much rational, you want to have it in the back. But if you want to balance both sides, you hold both sides at the same time. It's one of the best things that I can find. Even with kids, like my niece would never sleep, so you would just hold her head, and in 2 minutes that kid would be sleeping deeply and not come back. Right.
And if you want to go a little further with that, sometimes the biggest thing is we talk about affirmations, and I like to think of speaking your truth. So when I'm teaching people the basic of tapping, even however it is, just speak what's ever going on in your mind. Like just say your truth. Like, I'm really frustrated. I'm really upset. If you have to go into a bunch of 4-letter words, fine. It's just speaking your truth, because that's what's going on in your system. Sometimes just admitting what's going on in your system. I'm just really pissed at what's going on. I'm so frustrated. So talking out to yourself. And many people talk to yourself. My wife talks to herself all the time. Sometimes she includes me in a conversation. I have to figure out where I'm in the conversation.
That's cool. Nice. Can be frustrating, I guess.
Could you start somewhere where I can pick this up? But again, it's okay to say to yourself what's going on in your truth. I mean, when I call it the Chevy Chase rant, I teach people the tapping. I mean, just if you have to curse it out, curse it out. It's your truth in the moment. Because it's not your core truth. It's your frustration you're able to really digest. I mean, I've done it number of times, and 10 minutes of the Chevy Chase rant, and I guarantee you within 30 minutes you've literally dropped 90% of the stress right there, and you may have some clarity of the situation, and it's like you're not ruminating, you're not talking about it 2 days later. It's gone.
I like for one of those reasons, I like swearing, not at people, but the thing is, if you swear, you get the emotion out of your system. You yell it out. And if it's the F word, it doesn't matter. You get it out of your system. It's not stuck in you. You're not sitting there like, ugh. No, you get the energy out. And coming from Bavaria, we swear. So, but the point is, you got to learn it the right way. So never swear at people or curse people, but you can use those words to just get it out of your system. Yeah. And I find that's what most people don't see, that we hold everything in. We're so taught to be polite, correct, and whatever. Just go out of the room and yell. And then come back and have your conversation. As a kid, I would do that. I would run out, I would slam the door, and 5 minutes later I would be back and say, I'm good now.
But
that's it.
And you're not carrying it around 20. You're not carrying around 10 hours later. It's not eating. You're not eating your gut. People swallow so much anger, and you see that they swallow so much disappointment. You wonder why you have digestion problems or bowel problems.
Exactly.
You can't. Your system can only take so much. I talked the other day about sometimes your emotional wheelbarrow can only take so much, and then it's going to dump itself back on you. And we have to find ways to allow these emotions to process, because we're carrying generations of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. What all people don't consider, as anything is stored in every cell in your body. Every time there's a child born, it carries all the memories and all the emotions from everybody before it. From all the ancestry. So everything is in there if it's not resolved. Right?
And I think 7 generations somebody did, I think Jean-Luc did the math, it was almost 2,000 people.
I know. I had when I started Touch for Health, we did some clearings, and mine sometimes came back 13 generations back. That there was because you can ask your body, you can check with your body and ask it, how far back is it, right? And then you can resolve it. The fun part is that you don't need to know exactly what it was. You need just circumferences and as pointers, and your body will remember, and then you can dissolve it. That's why I love in my work, the tools that I use most often is the ESRs, and often talking to them as a child with the ESRs, and the other one is then cutting the cord, because how often do we have things related to our emotions from before, and it's not releasing, and it's stuck with us. I'm sorry, my phone alarm is going off. I don't know why. And it's not releasing. But when you start tying into that physically, and that's what my work does, so I have them physically feel and describe and qualify the chords, whichever way that is. And then they go, but that can't be that. Usually that's the first answer, because they're so stuck in their head. And I said, no, just don't worry about it. Just let it go. And then use the first thing that comes to mind to resolve it. So there's an anchor chain, and what comes to mind is nail clippers. And they go like, that doesn't work. No, don't think about it. Just use the nail clippers. You're working energetically. It's just metaphors for whatever's going on.
Yeah.
But to see that result then afterwards, like see the faces become softer, less stress in them, less tension in them, and the shoulders going lower, posture changes. It's amazing what you can do with tiny things like that.
Then you go back lifetimes, I mean, hundreds of lifetimes.
Yeah.
Shows up as the incarnation cycles, right? So, and if you're in the Akashic Records, there's so much available to hold these little hidden aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's, if I may address time sweeps on how we use that, because what I found out with time sweeps, again, how this came about with one of my friends. We were talking for a long time, and I said, there's got to be a simpler way, because every time we do a clearing through, the EFT or NLP, there's always something else sort of slides in.
Mm-hmm.
Another sort of pattern shows up, and I looked at what else could we do, and then my wife brought me a meme and said, people will remember you in the moment they have the most power over you. And I said, that's a timestamp, because those events can happen when you're 5 and 7, and a 5-year-old fighting with their mother, and I've worked with I think with a woman who was 70 and her mother was 93, and she still was fighting in the same fight, still getting exhausted. So we couldn't get timestamps. We thought time sweeps were able to get a website up on it, because with the time sweeps, I'm addressing the global problem, but because it's related to imagery. And through a book I was reading and other practitioners, all of our memories are located in imagery throughout our body, throughout our systems, our organs, our cells. So I'm addressing the stories, the language to the imagery. So when I say open, I just see people the basic, their frustration, open all points of this frustration, open, clear, delete, and destroy now. It's a very basic clearing, but when you just do it, the energy starts to dissipate. So when we say open time sweeps, I'm opening up the imagery related, the unconscious. I'm talking body speak to the body, not to the mind. And where is the energy stored in the body? I don't have to know. I'm just saying open all the energy time sweeps to this conflict with Fred, and this frustration with Fred, and open, clear, delete, and destroy now. And I'm just layering down from there. So I'm starting with the topic. I don't have to go into the past or uncover something. As I peel the layers off from the top of the situation, the awareness has come up, because some people are very visual, and they'll be sitting in a hole, and you'll talk about while the imagery is just flooding through their minds. So that part of it is the awareness without the emotional discord. Yes, there is when there's a lot of release, we have to be aware, as I am as a practitioner, what their body is the limit to their body. So I worked with somebody there last week, and I did about 25 minutes, and I said, I think we're done. I think that's enough for you, because you don't want to you don't want to take out too much. But it's just addressing the language of the frustration, and it intuitively, and it's realized with my human design and my open crown chakra, the information just kind of flows in. So my language, my verbal language, is their unconscious language. And as I'm saying things, you can see them nod, and then with a few people, they'll twitch, and because I'm really speaking to their unconscious system. And it's so much fun, because it's so much discovery. And again, they're having their awareness of the shifting, and in real life situation, when I talk about relationship, I worked with a gal from the UK when she was heading back to South Africa with her husband to see her family, and her mother-in-law was always quite challenging. And in that week I was there, my feedback was that part of her mother-in-law never showed up. That was that really antagonistic side. And her husband noticed. He said, "What did you do?" Because he saw the difference in how his mother was behaving. And she said the whole vacation was so peaceful in so many ways. And when it did get tense, he just gets that barriers down. So we're seeing real world results in people like right away.
Yeah, I
And
know.
right away, they're able to step into a situation or really feel so much less pressure. Like, we all got habits, habitual patterns that are driving us. And there's so many ways. And I can address that in so many ways. But again, it's fun because they're not having to sit there and try and unconsciously go into a past event that they have no idea that's there.
I
It just,
find it's so interesting because we are so individual in the way that most of us work. And especially when you start making your work your own and taking on, like, these days you read something and you say this part fits, that doesn't, and you make it work for yourself. But we're seeing the same results, and it still shows that there's no one person for all. It's one person might work with me and not with you, and vice versa. I'm personally, I like to, like, if something's making me curious, I like to go and see for myself what works and try it out. Might be just once, might be 15 times. I don't know. I'm open to explore. Let's say this way. What I love, what I would love for people would be to realize that people can tell you, and we as healers can tell you a lot of things, but you have to experience for yourself. You have to go and try out. But when the inner voice says this might be something for you, just go and try it and see if the results are what you expected, and if you stay with it. Like, I do PTSD work and depression, anxiety is a lot of my clients, because 2014 I said I'm open to work with mental health issues. Not realizing, a little bit realizing that the burnout was part of that, but not realizing how much effort actually, or how much understanding I can bring to the table because of the burnout that came way later. Same with your story. You had your story and you found your tools while you were, and it's neuro-linguistic programming, right? NLP is the other
yes,
one,
yes,
right?
yep.
But to trust your gut, to trust your instincts, to be guided to the right person, to be guided to the right tools, and so on. That's another part where I find our brain is so much to hold back, that says, no, you can't do that. This doesn't work. This is not possible. But seeing the energy work that we all do, and seeing the results that we get is just so amazing. You say, I find you are one of the people who, I'm looking for the right word, who tries to not put you on a pedestal. Not that I want to put you on one, but the things that you bring to the table are always spot on. They're always kind, they're always gentle, but they're always something that gives a nudge in the right direction. And it's hard for us as the healer to not, because when you stand out there and yell, I'm the healer, I can fix you, then it's about ego, then it's about you. But still, we have to make people understand there is those tools, there is those chances. And that's part of the reason why I love to have other healers at the podcast, to show that there's opportunities, there is possibilities, and you just have to go out and grab them.
I read something years back, and I think it was taken down, but they talked about how many, I mean, there's many studies on different types, but it wasn't so much the degrees of the practitioner or the professional. It was the ability for the connection to form. And, somewhere it got just diluted in a sense, but the real truth, when you feel connected and feel that little bit of safety, that's truly where the healing in your body starts to respond. Because we're just really, I'm a guide. I'm just helping you walk that path, and we call ourselves sometimes, and I'm sure with Natasha, we're London taxi drivers, because we have a destination, but we're going to take many routes to get there. But all along, we're walking with you, so you feel safe in the process. And for the first time, sometimes, maybe others have, but maybe how you may feel the first time, you may have felt heard and understood. And if we can allow that in our sessions, to really touch that, and you recognize that you are worthy of being heard and understood and honored in that space, then allow that to be sort of a guide for you to who you work with. You know, if you work with someone else, that they allow that space for you. They're not dictating, they're not talking at you, they're walking with you, and they're here, they're standing beside you.
I love
And I
that you
think,
use the word guide, because I realized this year that I never liked the word healer. I always called me more practitioner or facilitator, but I realized that that's why I now go with the burnout recovery guide, because I'm just walking beside you.
yeah, yeah.
I lend a hand if you need it, but I'm not the one pulling you and pushing you. You have to do the work. I'll just make it easier for you.
And it's somebody that you can trust to be accountable with.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal, because when you have somebody that you're accountable with, that you care, you'll go the extra step and beyond.
Yeah, it becomes easier because you're walking together without having somebody tell you or nagging you all the time. You have to be this way, you have to be that way, you have to go here and there and whatever. You can find your own path.
Yeah.
It's what I said to Denise. I said, talking about not Denise, Adele, somebody talking about meditations. I had a meditation teacher who told me I'm neglecting, like I'm pulling myself out of the process because I fell asleep when they were doing meditations. The point being is that they didn't realize that I couldn't cope. When they were talking about the red door and walking through the door, I couldn't find that freaking red door. But if you told me there was no elephant in the room, it was in the middle of the room, right? So having somebody understanding that where you are and leaving you at the place that you are at and giving you the chance to come to a different place by your own is so much more empowering than anything else, right? And it's lasting. That's the other part. Like if somebody puts you where you need to be, instead of you having to walk there, you don't learn the lesson. You don't understand. Your body doesn't understand why and how and what's it all about. But when you do it yourself, then it's an imprint. Then it becomes ingrained. Then it's you. It's yours. It's not somebody else's dictate on you, right?
The most powerful thing I can hear sometimes when a client says, I felt this or I did that, because that's what I want to hear. It's about themselves. We're not allowed to talk about ourselves, but in truth, we need to. And,
Yeah.
Understanding when I say this is your journey, so they realize I did this, and now what else can I do? What else is available for me?
Mm-hmm. We have a saying when I started my training, but when I prepared to be an instructor with Therapeutic Touch, the phrase that stuck the most is, we create the circumstances for your innate healing potential to occur. And that's what it is. That's where I see myself. I'm not the one who does the work, right? And I cannot, because healing is innate. Healing is personally, it's not somebody else's, it's your own. But we can help and assist.
So let me put a frame out there for that, because so much of people want something to do something for them, and that's the way the system out there works. If I take this pill or this diet product, it will do this for me, right? And I think we get so much at giving our power away. Well, this will do this for me. Nothing will do anything for you. No one or nothing will do anything for you. That's what we're asking you to do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand that, when you take charge of that, then I will do this for myself, and I've got Richard and Natasha to guide me, then I'm really stepping into my power. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't be prouder of you.
Mm-hmm. It's basically, my mom came, she was 65 or close to 70, something like that. She came, she handed me her wallet, and she said, "You pay for me." I said, "Do you want to give me your driver's license too?" And she looks at me and she says, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're giving up your freedom. I might take your driver's license too, because that's the same thing." And she looks at me and she was like, "Yeah, never ask once." Again, she does all herself. She's 80, 82, 83 this year. And
beautiful.
Living by herself with her husband. They're both over 80. They go 3 days a week to the gym and 2 days a week to the yoga class. Fully self-sufficient. Come and help me, which is totally funny. they are just living their life, right? Because they don't give up their power. They do what they can to keep their power and keep strong. right?
And that's why we came here. We came here to do for ourselves, to think for ourselves, and to take care of ourselves. You know, then from that we can create community, but it starts with you first.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-reliance and self-responsibility are two big topics that most people don't want to deal with because they don't want to take the responsibility of having to make decisions and having to not having somebody else to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
Basically, right? It's easier when
Yeah.
you blame somebody else. But it's so much more fun if you take charge and you can see where you can go and what you can do and where
And
you end up.
there's a whole lot more to my story about that, but again, we chose decisions for ourselves, and
Yep.
we chose our path because we made choices, and from those choices we made decisions.
Yeah.
And that's creating a life that we have now. So it's that's another story, but we were very conscious about it, but also very grateful that we were able to do that. But we took control of ourselves to make choices that create our lifestyle, and
We
we couldn't
wouldn't
be happier.
we wouldn't be who we are today if it wasn't for our past and our decisions.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody goes back and says, "Oh, I had such a bad," yeah, sure, you had it bad, but the other part is you had lessons in there. You be the stronger person out of what happened to you. Do I regret not having kids because I was shut down for half of my life? Yes and no. I love kids. They don't have to be my own. I'm the great aunt, and I can give them back if I don't want them anymore. So
Yep.
actually, I love kids because kids are so open-minded for the most part. But the thing is too, yes, I regret some. I wish some things would have happened differently, but I don't regret that they didn't happen. Right. So if something happened to me today, I'm fine with it. I have things that I would like to do, but it's not that I would have any regrets if anything happened to me today. Right. And that makes life easier and for the most part happier because I can enjoy what is there. I don't fret and don't fear and don't run behind things that are not meant to be.
And in truth, you're able to nurture kids now from a way that you would have liked to have been nurtured when you were young.
I was
So
very blessed with a youth where my mother nurtured and my grandmother both nurtured in us anything and everything. So I cannot say I had my complications with my mom because we're too close and too similar in certain points, so we clashed quite a bit. But anything that was instilled in me today, to be that respect or curiosity or trying things or whatever, was usually my mom and my grandmother who made everything possible for us. Yeah, two very strong women in my life. And to this day, I love my mom to pieces, and sometimes I could kill her. That's the way it is. But she's amazing. She did energy training too, and it's just great. We had our differences, and when I learned what the block was, I talked to her about it, and she stepped back, and she'd never said those words again. But it was me who had to change and had to figure out what was the block. She didn't know about that. Right? That's the other part.
So if we say this because, and I apologize if I overstepped a boundary but again, you see the nurturing you were provided, so therefore you're able to share it. I didn't have it, but I was able to provide it through my kids. I made a choice. And this is what I want to say. We have the ability to make a choice. I made a choice to be somebody different than how I was raised, and then have the support around us to have that nurturing. Therefore I have, today a wonderful relationship with my adult children, but that relationship started when they were first born.
Yeah.
And that nurturing was there. I was the dad at home in the evenings while my wife worked nights to help, changing diapers, walking, pooping, all that. And I loved it because it gave me a chance to really experience that for myself, nurturing my children. And I didn't default. I chose consciously how I wanted these actions to be. And in my relationship, I chose conscious actions. So again, people say, well, because there's so many bridge words. This is where I catch you at times.
It's all possibilities and it's all options. I could have turned out totally different. Same thing. Yeah. I cannot say that I had my father was not the person who was nurturing because he was too much egocentric, like more himself. And when I describe my family, like my parents got divorced when I was 6. My stepfather stepped up when I was 13. To this day, my stepfather, as many conflicts and arguments we have, because we clash once in a while, I walk through the door and I don't have to say anything. And he looks at me and he says, tell me what's going on. My father was never able, because my father was not able to deal with emotions. Right? And I'm an emotional bundle. Like, I live my emotions. And that made it hard for him. I needed some time to understand that. And in the end, my father was a good friend. We had discussions and clearing talks when I was 20, when I was 30, and when I was 40. I don't know why it always happened in like 10 decades. So like, maybe because I had to grow a bit. But the interesting part was to see where he came from and seeing his background. And his background was not a good one for a kid. Yep. While my mom, yes, there were some things that were not as nice, but my grandmother, for the most part, was a caring mother. So she had that part. And my mom always tried to live that caring part, no matter what she had to do. My holdbacks that were caused by my mother were things that came out of the caring. So basically, she told me to be financially secure. Every time I tried to do something else, the sentence came in somehow, and it would stop me from stepping where I needed to go. So I stuck 10 years with my former job, which was not a good place for me to be. But the only person who could change it was me, and I didn't see that point. It took me years and years and years to figure out that, first going from, no, this doesn't work, to I'll try my best. Taking the stress out the conversation with my boss, right? And then shifting, when I started gradually shifting and clearing out all of those holdbacks, even the work or the work relation with my boss changed at the same time, even so I wasn't consciously working on that. But the biggest step was in 2016 to realize that I was not happy in the place where I was, and I was becoming a negative person. So and that's not my base nature. My base nature is happy-go-lucky. But I, like, every sentence was, I hate, I don't want, and so on. You can imagine, F. Yeah. And I realized that, and at the same time I realized it, I got a mail from one of my colleagues saying, I have to distance myself from you, one of my business partners. I have to distance myself from you because you are so negative that I can't deal with you. I have enough stress in my life. And I just looked at it and I said, yes, that's right. And I decided that day that I'm going to quit my job. Quit my job, gave him 4 months time to find somebody else. And yeah, rest is history. So end of 2016, I quit my job and I've never looked back. Before I had fixed income, I never had enough money. Now I have no fixed income, but money's always there and I'm not fretting about it. And I need less. The more the trust came in, and the more that's the biggest part, like trusting myself and trusting that everything will work out, the less I have holdbacks, the less I have issues with other people, because I can be just trusting and be open for possibilities instead of being stuck in that it has to be this box. And this box never works.
And that's the point of when you're finding that self inside, that when I talk about teaching people to know how to say no, those yeses to yourself actually are what are very visceral. Mm-hmm. And it starts to really see that this is where your trust comes from. You start confirming yourself, those little yeses, and you start to trust your gut. You're starting to get in touch with yourself. And so the boundaries and rules come in naturally, but it sort of reversed the way it works. You said no to a few things, but that actually, yes, is like, I don't have to stress about that. I don't have to do that. And then there's time for you. There's space for you to come back. And really, what do you really need? I know, like I said, my wife and I are complete nomads. Everything we own is in 3 suitcases. So trusting, I wish. I know, trust you should see where I came from, all this stuff. But I mean, it was a journey. It was a journey. And part of that journey, when we first left in Ontario, I said, I want us to move every few months because I didn't want us to recreate what we had. And that continuous moving, that started back in 2020, has allowed us to drop off all the energies of what we thought we needed. And it was visceral how much it dropped. And we used to look at things and houses, and all of that is gone. We have a great lifestyle. We live, like I said, we live full-time in Mexico. We live in Airbnbs. We travel every 6 months, and now we're talking going, somewhere else after this. But I mean, it's the point of we're very present with our life, and so much is available, and we've never had so much freedom. It's because it's not for everybody. I realize that fully, but it's just you can create other ways of having some freedom in your life when you start to give yourself some space.
It's interesting.
Move away from all the obligations that you think you have to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because lately I've come, I have had the chance to get rid of things that were accumulating on my desk, work tasks that I just didn't have a brain for, and because I went back into full blown out burnout symptoms, and I'm slowly coming out of that, and all of those things are all of a sudden just falling apart because they're done, and then I'm sitting there, I'm like, and now what do I do now? That part is free now. What do I do? How do I fill that hole? I don't have to fill that hole. That's the part. But at the same time, physically, I'm looking at my house and I look at the things that I accumulated during that time because I was not able to let go of things. I had to hold on, and I had to. And these days I take a garbage bag and I go like, chuck, chuck, chuck. Not, this could be maybe used. So let's go. Just go. Yeah. I had, when I still lived in Germany, I had the habit of every year, I would at least every year, I would take one of my rooms and clear it completely out and renovate, color or whatever, revamp. But every 3 years, I would go through the stuff in one room and get rid of whatever was not serving or not needed. I haven't done that in my house more than twice.
Yeah.
More than twice. And only because I had major renovations coming up in my house the last time. But the fun part in that is to realize, holy crap, all the things that you don't need are in here. And you cannot let go because your mind cannot let go. And then that's what I find,
Yes.
the more you're in stress or in overwhelm for whatever reason, the less your brain can let go of things. Yeah. It's not your body. Your body goes like, you don't need that. You don't care about that. Just let it go. And your brain is like, no, it has to be there. And the picture has to be straight. Stuff like that. OCD is a huge part of the brain trying to keep you safe. While the gut just goes, oh yeah, you're crooked. Nice to see you. Bye. Right. Yeah. That's
and your garage is full of stuff.
Not anymore. I got rid of that.
But many others were. The neighborhood I lived in, double garage and no car in there, but it's full of boxes and things. Right. It's just
basement attic.
Oh, yeah. And you're right. We've been conditioned to think we have to have all these things.
Yeah.
But for us being able to have that journey of letting go and then coming here 3 years ago, we were so prepared to come here and I'm in more sunshine in 3 years here than I've had in the last 10. Every day I walk outside. Went and had to renew our cell phone. Went for a 20-minute walk and meant sunshine. So I embrace that every day, and just the sounds and the noise and the dust, but I'm outside and I don't have to mow the lawn. I don't have to fix anything. I don't have to do all these things that maintain a house, which we did all that, right? And it's like there's freedom time to just sit back and chill. What do you need to do? Nothing.
Well, I have 3 souls that say, no, you can't do that, because I don't think my cats and my dog will like me to move every 6 months. That's the other part is that I was not prepared to buy a house. When I looked at my house, it's the only house I ever looked at. That's the only house I ever bought. And people come in here and they just go like, oh, yeah, I'm here. So energetically, I found my space, and that's probably one of the reasons why I don't want to move, but I want to travel. And then I have friends come in, stay in the house with the pets, and use the space for what they need, be that massages or whatever they give. But again, before that would have not been possible because I wouldn't have been able to let go of my space. These days, last time I went away to a fair, I had a friend staying here with my pets, and I had another friend working in the basement. So I wasn't home, but my house was lifted, right?
Yeah.
And that's, again, the trust. There's no, like, I don't even think about it, that somebody else is in my space. I see that as a shared space.
When you as you said, when people can walk in and you watch their drop their guard down and they feel at home, that's an incredible space to have. And that becomes a home, not just a house. And good for you to have that energy and that frequency of that connection, that support, that love that you are. And when people come in there, and again, you can still do some traveling because you know your home is looked after, it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're safe. That's the other space. Like I know that whoever comes in my house, they know they have a home. Like they can be here. I have taken in friends for months to keep them in a safe space, right? I'm fortunate enough that I have the space to do that. This is my treatment room, but I can still go, and if need be, I'll treat up in my in my living room. I don't mind that. Funny for me was to see that after graduation on Sunday, Monday morning I got up and I cleaned my house. And that's, for me, cleaning is usually, tidying up and cleaning is usually a state of mind that I have to be in, because otherwise I'm exhausted within half an hour and I can't deal. And I cleaned the whole day and I had fun with it because something else was taken off my plate, right? Something that I had threaded and pushed in front of me and whatever was gone. And then I needed to do something, so I cleaned the house.
But beautiful, but you recognize that. You recognize, because
these
like
days,
you said, that was a 10-year journey.
Yeah, these days I recognize that. Before I didn't. Before I would have gone like, yeah, I don't know. But having the inside, and a lot of it is inside, like the intuition and the feedback from your body with like gut feeling and heart space. Like, I don't say for no reason my heart is overflowing, because something's happened and it feels like my heart is bursting with love and joy, right? And I find a lot of times people are not connected with all of those. And they're all up in their brain, and the brain is just not the place you want to be. You want to be in your heart.
You find it with people too. I find when I'm working with people that aren't connected to their body, I'm yawning. I'm actually doing the release, not intention releasing for them, because they're so in their head and their body's crying for attention. So the connection to the body is, we have that connection to the body, so helping the body do the releasing. And it's not conscious, but it's interesting to see it. Again, so many people were caught in our busy mind, and so trapped and afraid to be in our body. But that's the point of coming home, and where this work is, to come back and sit in your body and start to feel it, and you feeling like you're okay to just be. And just, you don't have to have 10,000 things in the go. You don't have to be running here, and it's the key word is being present. And even if it's only for a few minutes at a time, it's a start.
And it means also you don't have to have a conversation. You can just sit with somebody.
Yeah.
Right. It's not always, you don't have to have a conversation going when you're with somebody, because you're interacting energetically anyway.
So I'll end with this, in the sense of, if somebody's say you're having a bad day and we're neighbors, the best thing I could do ever would be come over and have a cup of tea and just sit there. I don't have to fill your mind. I don't have to have stories. I'm just sitting there with you, having a cup of tea, sitting maybe at an angle with each other, just hanging out. Or on your back, if you've got a back porch, sitting on there and a couple of chairs, just having somebody near you helps your system start to regulate. And it's so key. We don't have to be anybody, but just ourselves, to help a friend and be a friend.
That's a wonderful ending. So I think we're gonna stop here, because I think we went way over time. But that's the neat space when you go with people that you like and that you can deal with. Sorry, that's the wrong wording. that you click with and that resonate. And that's what I find. The resonance is the big part for all of us to be together, right? And it's not about anything else. So Richard, thank you so much. I'm gonna add your information on the bottom of the caption. And if anybody would like to reach out to Richard, please feel free to do so. He's a wonderful person, and I can't wait to see more of him in any form and capacity. And maybe I'm really contemplating doing time sweep myself. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thoughts are racing, spinning fast. Ideas flow, but never last. Waves of wonder, thoughts untamed. Nothing ever stays the same. Rambling on, no straight lines. Welcome to my busy mind. Ideas fade, all the shine. Oh, welcome to my busy mind. Questions, answers, here they go. Digging deep, let's start the show. Questions, answers, here they go.